Okay, guys, I'm back with another voiceover presentation. Today, I want to talk to you guys a bit about anxiety. With everything that's going on in the world right now, I'm sure many of you guys are dealing with this big word and with big feelings and maybe not knowing exactly what they mean or how to deal with them. So, today I'm going to go over some coping skills and some ways that you can address that anxiety you may be feeling. Okay, so I want to start off with a definition really quick. So, anxiety is feelings of worry, nervousness, and unease during certain situations. It's completely normal and it's a reaction to stress, and it should be short term. Some of the physical symptoms of anxiety are going to be that pounding heart, that shortness of breath, sweating, shaking or having tremors, headaches, fatigue. So you're either really tired or you're having trouble sleeping, and then that upset stomach. Those are all physical symptoms that you can feel in your body. Some of the emotional symptoms are going to be that feeling of apprehension. So, feeling like, ooh, I don't know if I can do this, or dreading something like I am just totally dreading having to get out of my bed or interact with people. So, that's going to be that. Tense, jumpy, restlessness, irritability. I know some of you might not be used to being around your siblings or your parents or your friends or your kids, even for this amount of time. And so it's normal to become irritable, but if it's that anxious irritable, it might feel just a little different or worsened. And then being extra watchful for signs of danger, a normal symptom of anxiety. Now I want to spend some time talking about the differences between normal anxiety and anxiety disorder. Keeping in mind that anxiety disorder has to be diagnosed by a medical professional. So, normal anxiety looks a bit like this: worrying about schoolwork piling up, relationship breakups or troubles, and other unfortunate life events. Those are things that happen to people every day and cause a normal amount of anxiety. Embarrassment and self consciousness in social situations. We've all been here once or twice or many times in our lives where we're just feeling a little bit self conscious about ourselves, what we might say, what we might do in a social interaction. A case of nerves before an exam or presentation or public speaking will always spike a little bit of anxiety. Realistic fear of a dangerous object, place, or situation. This comes into play right now because with the pandemic we're dealing with, you might be fearful of going outside your home, going to the grocery store, taking a walk around the neighborhood where you feel like there might be too many people around. Those are realistic fears that many of you guys might be dealing with right now. And then sadness, distress, or difficulty sleeping immediately after a traumatic event. Those are all symptoms of normal anxiety or causes of normal anxiety. Okay, so these are the things that are associated with anxiety disorder. This is something that has to be diagnosed. So, constant worry that causes significant distress and interferes with daily life. So, what that means is you have such strong worry that it keeps you from being able to be productive. So, the stress you feel about an assignment is so significant that you can't even get yourself to start that assignment. Okay. Avoiding social situations out of fear of being judged, embarrassed, or humiliated. So, similar to the last slide, you're going to be, anxious about the social situations. The difference here is that it keeps you from at least trying. So now you're avoiding those situations because the fear is so large. Out of the blue panic attacks and constant fear of having another panic attack. That's a symptom. Irrational fear or avoidance of an object, place, or situation that triggers your anxiety. So, again, you're no longer able to sit down and work on that assignment, go hang out with your friends, go to a grocery store, because the anxiety is so strong and the fear is so prevalent that it keeps you from being able to. And then recurring nightmares and flashbacks of the traumatic event. Now, these symptoms have to last at least 6 months to be diagnosed with anxiety disorder. And it's very important to note that a licensed psychiatrist or a psychologist have to be the one to diagnose you with a mental health disorder. As your school counselor, I am not able to diagnose or say that you have anxiety disorder, nor is your parent or yourself or a friend of yours who might have already been diagnosed. It's really important to know that this is something considered to be very serious. So you can't, just because you're having the symptoms or you're feeling anxious doesn't mean you have anxiety disorder. All right, so some techniques to reduce that anxiety. The first one is a grounding exercise. So, grounding means bringing your focus to the present. I've talked to some of my students about this already, so this might be a reminder. It means to be aware of what's happening physically in your body or in your surroundings instead of being trapped in your mind where you're having this cycle of unhealthy thoughts that are making you feel that anxiousness. So, one exercise I have here is the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding exercise. So, you're just going to name out loud 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And just repeating that until you feel yourself drawing back into the moment and grounding yourself with the present. Another technique is to cognitive reframe. So that's a psychological term where the negative thoughts are replaced with positive alternatives. This is another thing I talk to my students about. So some of the things I have listed on the right, this feeling won't last forever. Telling yourself that. Telling yourself that in this moment, I am feeling anxious about one thing or another, but it is not permanent. It will pass. I am safe right now. Another one that I really love is the number 10. Thank you, anxiety, for always trying to look out for me, but it's okay now. I got this. Letting your anxiety know that you realize it's a normal reaction to what's going on, but you don't need it. Okay? I'm going to leave it on just a few more seconds so you can maybe read through the rest of these bullets. Maybe even take a picture. Make sure you're reminding yourself of these objects, these affirmations. Okay, so here are some other techniques that you can use to reduce anxiety. Individual counseling, group counseling, those may be a little bit harder to get to during this time, but they're still available. You're still able to make an appointment with me on the Sign Up Genius, and we can talk through what's going on for you. That's always going to be helpful. I don't have solutions all the time, or I can't fix what's happening always, but just getting it out and talking about it can be very, very helpful. Other things are going to be the deep breathing. YouTube has thousands of videos on deep breathing exercises, guided meditation, muscle relaxation exercises, and then mindfulness activities. All of those are going to be very, very helpful. Okay, so I wanted to address some specific anxieties that the COVID-19 might be bringing up. So, stress during an infectious disease outbreak can include fear and worry about your own health and the health of your loved ones. I know that the news has been saying a lot about young people being able to be asymptomatic or less likely to have the severe symptoms, but you have parents and grandparents and loved ones who may be in the higher risk, and that will cause some stress. Changes in your sleep pattern or your eating patterns, difficulty sleeping or concentrating, worsening of chronic health problems, and then increased use of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. So, these are some of the things you might find yourself going through during this time. And it's important to know that although not always conducive for your health, they are things that other people are struggling with too. All right, so some specific coping skills for this pandemic. Remember that it's normal. Focus on what you can control. Try to stick to your schedule. Maintain some structure, and that's going to alleviate your stress and your anxiety. Practice your grounding, your deep breathing, exercise. Make sure you're still getting vitamin D from the sun. Take a walk around the neighborhood. Be mindful of how much media coverage you're exposed to. It can be really tempting to watch the news all day long or be keyed into what the latest numbers are, but that could become a very high source of anxiety if you're always plugged in. So make sure you take some breaks. Do some other activities you enjoy. So maybe you're a board game person and you want to dust off that Monopoly and get your parents or your siblings to play with you. Connect with others. So talking to people you trust about your concerns and how you're feeling. That goes back to that individual counseling I was talking about. It doesn't have to be with me or a professional. It could just be with the person you trust the most in this world and just talking to them about your concerns. Connect with your family and friends through group chats and video calls. Zoom is huge right now. You can Zoom with many of your friends and just keep in touch that way. And just remember your mental health is so important. Do not hesitate to reach out to me if you need some help or reach out to another person that you trust. All right, that's all I got. There is a survey. I would love it, love it, love it if you made it all the way here. If you could take the survey and let me know what you liked, what you might have wanted a little bit more of, and anything else you might be looking to learn during this pause. All right, guys, talk to you soon.